Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto first, verse first, 19th, Canto first, chapter 1 and 19th verse. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with Him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, or history, and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The mundane stories, the fiction or history, are of the material world, and they are meant to be for the material prosperity itself. If the film industry didn't make mundane stories or write mundane scripts, if they did not make any fiction matter content, uh, who would watch their content? And reality cannot be depicted at all on the screen. So the filmmakers, the films are all about imitation and presenting that which is not true. Any intelligent person who has understood the importance of spiritual life will never ever watch a movie after he has understood and realized the importance of the study of Bhagavatam. He will not like to watch the ordinary film that are made by the ordinary film makers, the producers, based on fiction and mundane stories. They do not have even an inch of reality there. For others, for as an entertainment, it can be watched, but those who are into serious and deep study of Bhagavatam cannot afford to go into that side of the entertainment world, and it creates a kind of disgust upon hearing that itself. So there cannot be any similarity between these mundane stories and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, they are histories of bygone ages, recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh even after repeated readings. For example, anyone may read Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life and yet find in them new light of information. So, the ordinary novels again. What is the difference between the ordinary novels written by the philosophers, and there can't be any comparison at all? But those who do not understand the importance and they to bring out the difference between them, it is important to understand that the novels or the philosophers, the books that they write are stagnant. They remain stagnant. They do not change with time. Whereas Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita gives new light of knowledge as time passes by. Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita was read by people, especially like the people of my age at that time. They did read 4 decades back. I'm talking. They did read the scriptures, and after 4 decades, again they are studying. Why is that? Would anybody read a novel for 4 decades back and again relish it in a newer way 4 decades hence? No, that is not that we have not heard so far. He will just, pass it to his friend or anyone for that matter. But the books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, they are ever new in presenting the knowledge on about how to conduct, how to keep oneself enthusiastic and up with the modern thinking. And what is the modern thinking? Because these are of the spiritual world, so the thinking is modern. Many people may not know this, especially even the youngsters may not know SIDS. But it is important that they understand this and they need to be told about it. Mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic, inasmuch as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matter are never tired of hearing such narrations. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities, but no one is satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. Uttam Shlok indicates that literature which is not meant for nations, mundane literature, is in the mode of darkness or ignorance, whereas transcendental literature is quite different. Transcendental literature is about the mode of darkness, and its light becomes more luminous with progressive reading and realization of the transcendental subject matter. The so called liberated persons are never satisfied by the repetitions of the word Aham Brahmasmi, such artificial realization. Now, the so called liberated persons are never satisfied by the repetition. So, what does that mean? They are never satisfied. They need to take to reading of the Leelas and the pastimes of the Lord. Such artificial realization of Brahman becomes hackneyed, and so, to relish real pleasure, they turn to the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. And they believe in that, they say that Aham Brahmasmi. And what is that? They say, I am that. And what is that? The that keeps changing. So I am that. So that is a very stupid understanding and a belief. So, and this is for the cheaters. They dupe people by giving them the wrong philosophy. And, so when the people practice Aham Brahmasmi and then that, they enter that and keep on replacing it with material objects and things and keep that person amused unless that person understands that what experience he's getting, the happiness, is not happiness at all. It is just an illusion and it is degrading day by day. Happiness should be increasing. When there is love, the love should always be increasing and maintained. Even in material world, there is if there is love between two people, you dad or son, or dad and son, or mom and son, or sister and brothers, and so on, then that happiness increases, the love increases. There is never a reason for it to break. So, such are the examples even in the material world. So, what is happiness? So, one person who goes on practicing in this way, the wrong way, I am that. So, that is replaced by all the inanimate objects. It could be animals too. What pleasure will he derive? Would anybody be forced into loving any animal that is not his pet? So, that is the one thing to understand. We have to understand this. We love only those around us whom with we have grown up or we are favorable with, and they are friends and they are helping, and there is nourishment in the relationship. So when the people, ordinary people, mundane people practice Aham Brahmasmi, and now that at the I am that, and without knowledge that at at the place of that a pillow might come. So he will, what he will he get joy when he thinks that he's a pillow? So such foolish things people practice and get duped in ignorance. But it is important to understand that Reading Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam is the direct service of the personal form of the Lord. So one should go for that. That is reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, where all the pastimes of Lord Krishna are vividly described by his devotees, and it gives a lot of joy and satisfaction because reading Srimad Bhagavatam is a service of the Lord in itself. Those who are not so fortunate turn to altruism and worldly philanthropy. The worldly philanthropy is only all about kindness in the material world, and that kindness also fades if the person who shows kindness has some interest. Then the kindness is maintained only for that duration. After that his kindness vanishes. So what is that worldly philanthropy? Again, this is a thing to ponder upon. This means the Mayavad philosophy is maintained, whereas the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental. So, the Bhagavatam Shloka 1.1.19, I will again read it. Vayam tu na vitrupyam uttam shlok vikrame yachrunvatam yarasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. We never tire of hearing the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with Him relish hearing of His pastimes at every moment. So here it is clearly told, Swadu Swadu Pade Pade. It becomes palatable, more relishable at every step. Every moment it goes on, getting more relishable. So, and Uttam Shlok is the personality of Godhead who is glorified by transcendental prayers. And the Uttam Shlok in the material in this material world are those Vaishnavas who spread the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how we understand this shloka 1.1.19. Vayam tu na vitrupyam uttam shloka vikrami yachrunvatam rasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. So rather than going for some ordinary, mundane, gossip stories and some fictional novels or the fiction movies, one should be wise enough to make a good choice of choosing between these mundane stories and the right books, that is Srimad Bhagavatam, and should see for himself what change it brings in him. And that is what is expected of every living entity on this material, on this earth planet, that he take up study of for books like Bhagavatam for realizing the higher goal, for that will ensure every success. The duties that are being carried out, the ambitions, the goals that need to be satisfied can go on in parallel, and one will get the intelligence on the way in between reading this Bhagavatam, and he can understand that there is a higher goal other than thinking I'm Aham Brahmasmi. Hare Krishna.